Shalom. I just want to give a summary of this week's classes that were given in Shiur Talmud. The Mishnah says that if someone hands over an animal or kalim, things, to a shomer to watch, and then it gets lost or stolen, if the shomer pays for it, so he gets to keep the kefel. In other words, when they find the stolen object and they catch that thief, so he gets to keep that double payment that the thief has to pay to the owner. Instead of going to the owner, well, it goes to the shomer. So Rabbi Chama has a hakash with that in the Gemara. He says like this: it's impossible for a man to acquire something that's not in the world. So how is it possible that the shomer can acquire the kefil, the payment, if the payment is not in the world yet? When the shomer pays for it, basically what happens is it gets stolen or lost. Then the shomer says, you know what, I'll pay you. I don't want to take a shavua, I don't want to take an oath, but I'll pay you. So he says he pays. And then afterwards we find the ganav and we catch him. So how is it possible that he acquires this kefel, this fine, if the fine is not in the world yet? And that's according to the Rabbanan. And he goes further. Even Rabbi Meir, who normally says you can't acquire a davar shelo ba'olam, a thing that's not in the world, futures, you can acquire them, but that's different here. That's when the thing is similar to paros deko, the dates of a date tree, where the probability is very high. You can acquire the future dates of next year. That's because the probability is going to be very high. But here, who says that the thing is going to get stolen? And not only that, even if the thing gets stolen, who says they'll find the thief? And even if they find the thief, who says the thief is going to get caught? Maybe he'll be modeh and he won't have to pay the kanas. So you see that it's a davar shelo ba'olam here, even according to Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir will not agree that the person can buy the fine of a thief. Comes along Rava and gives an answer. He says, no, that's not, I'll explain to you how it works. We, the rabbis, state that in the mind of the Baal, the original owner, when he hands over originally, in the original Mashiach, that he hands over the animal to the shomer, he has in mind in the future that if he pays, well, I will give this guy my animal limafreya, retroactively. And therefore, whoever owns the animal at the time that the thief is caught, and he has to pay the kefil, well, the kefil will go to him. So we say that this is, if the original Baal has in mind, when he hands it over, that the thief should acquire the kefil. Comes along with Tosfos, and he has a difficulty. The Gemara clearly stated the factor why this kefil is not acquirable is because it is not probable. It's not the avid aso. It has all these fakot, all these doubts about it. That's what the Gemara seems to be saying. But Tosfos says, wait a second, even if it was probable, there was a good chance that the thief was going to get caught, or we were going to get the kefil, even if it was acquirable, where is the acquisition? If you said the acquisition is the money itself, when the shomer pays the money, so that's not an acquisition. The maximum that does is mishapara. All it does is give a curse to the guy. The fact that you pay something and you renege on it, it gives you the curse of mishapara. But it's not an acquisition. Money cannot acquire matatlin. When you hand over money to somebody, you cannot acquire matatlin. You have to have a mashicha. So even in the havamina, we have to produce an acquisition. Where is that acquisition? Or where do we think, before we have our difficulty, that it's a davar shelo ba'olam, it's not a thing in the world. There has to be some kind of acquisition, and the money doesn't seem to make it. Not only that, in terms of the time frame of the money, it's the way the time sequence would have gone was he gave the animal to the shomer, the animal got stolen, he says, I want to pay, I do not want to take a shavua. Then they catch the thief. But it will come out that he paid the money when? After it was stolen. So if that's true, why does the Gemara say that one of the sveikot, one of the doubts is that maybe the thing won't even get stolen? It's not true. If the acquisition occurs at the time of the payment, so we're already past that doubt. We only have two doubts, not three. It could possibly be that Tosfos' second question is even going to the shita that says that there is an acquisition by money. But Tosfos doesn't say anything about that. So in order to produce an acquisition, Tosfos says, even in the Havamina, it must have been that he had in mind when he did the Mashicha, that he gave the kefel to the owner. This is fine. How did it work? He gave the cow for the sake of the kefel. There has to be. Otherwise, there's no acquisition at all. So the acquisition wasn't actually the money. The acquisition is in the Mashicha. If in the future this thing gets stolen and you decide to pay, so then we'll say that the original Mashicha, the original pulling of the animal, giving over the animal, Metzia, giving it over, was the acquisition of the cow for the sake of the kefel. It may sound confusing because it sounds like the answer of the Gemara. Why it's not a davar shel ba'olam, because I'm afraid there was an acquisition retroactively. But the difference is, in the actual answer of the Gemara, what happens retroactively is I gave the entire cow, and whoever gets the entire cow gets the kefel. That solves the problem of a davar shel ba'olam. Here, he was just getting the cow for the sake of the kefel. And the kefel is really still a davar shel ba'olam. Now, Tosfos states in Alf Agav, he says like this: Alf Agav du perek mi shemes, Amri de bedekel leperos, afilu rabbanin modeh de kone. Even the rabbanin will hold that peros, dekel leperos, where you acquire the tree for the sake of the fruits. So even the rabbanin will hold that it works. And over here, they're not holding that it works. And we're assuming that the whole point was that Tosfos' answer to the type of acquisition that we're talking about is the cow for the sake of the kanas, which is similar to the tree for the sake of the fruits. So either Rabbanan will hold it works. So the answer to that is, well, here it's not Avida Da'asa, and there it is Avida Da'asa. There's a good possibility that the fruits are going to come out of the tree. So Afil Roi Meir Lo Kone. And here, even Roi Meir will agree that it doesn't work, because it's not probable. So now we have a difficulty from the Gemara in Gittin 42b. Why, in the case of a slave who sold for his fine, over there it's a suffix? What is the case? The case is that if a slave gets killed by an animal, so the owner of that animal has to pay the kanas of 30 shekel, 30 shekel to the owner. So what the owner of the slave does is he tries to sell that kanas. He says, listen, you want to buy my slave for the sake of the kanas, and if he gets killed, you'll get paid 30 shekels. So in Gittin over there, there's a suffix whether it works or not. It's a shakira. One side says yes, and one side says no. So what's the difference between that? In our case, where if the animal gets stolen, and the guy wants to sell, let's say the Baal wants to sell the kefil to the shomer, we say clearly that it doesn't work. What's the difference between the two cases? So Tosfos gives two answers. The first answer that you'll say, no, in terms of probability, goring is more probable than thieving and catching the thief. That's one possibility. The second answer is an imtim selomar. What do you mean? That our Gemara is really going on one side of the Chakira over there. Our Gemara is only going on the side that the kanas by a slave is not acquired. If it's not acquired, a kanas by a slave, a fine by a slave, so also over here, it's clear that the cow cannot be acquired for the sake of the kefel. And we'll have to answer that the entire cow was acquired retroactively. The Tosfos Rush has a similar setup, but he says it's stronger. And he has a kasha. And he asked the kasha on Rashi. Our Tosfos are not asking kasha on Rashi. But the Tosfos Rush asked the kasha on Rashi. Rashi, when he talks about the acquisition that's occurring here, is very ambiguous. It seems to be not to be clear. I'll read you what Rashi says. The Makdele Kefeli, he gave over the kefil to him. Habailim. Makdin l'shomer kefa atid. L'hishtalem, so the one who pays. Keda'amar l'kam v'shiva shemosar lo l'shomer amanas came. He gave it to him that he should acquire it. She'im tignavu, and if it gets stolen and he wants it, you shalem yeheh kafo shelo, that the kefil will be shelo. Rashi does not give away the details as to what's going on here, but the Tosfos of Rashi says maman afshach. Why? Because if we say that the acquisition that we're talking about is a kinyan similar to dekel peros, the tree for the sake of the fruits, then even the Rabbanan will hold that it works. And that can't be, because that doesn't fit with our Gemara. Our Gemara is clearly saying the Rabbanan doesn't hold it doesn't work. And if it's not similar to dekel, the tree for the sake of the fruits, then it won't work at all. It won't even work according to Rebbe Meir. Because the kefel is, because even though Rebbe Meir holds that a case is not similar to the tree for the sake of the fruits, but even if you want to acquire the fruits directly, Rebbe Meir will hold that works. Why? It's an interesting svar what he says. He says, but the fruits are still connected to the tree. Even if you want to just buy directly the fruits, but the fruits are still connected to something. There's a reality to the fruits now. Even though they're futures, but you can see the tree now, which is not true by the kefel. There's no kefel on a thing. There's no fine on a object that's going to be stolen that the thief is going to have to pay. That fine doesn't really exist at all. It's not connected to the goof, to the body of the object. So therefore, Tosfos Rush doesn't understand. He says on Rashi, I don't understand. Where's the kinyan? We know that the kinyan is not the money. So where is the kinyan? If the kinyan, I'll say it again. If the kinyan is similar to dekel leperos, so even the Rabbanan will hold it works. And if it's not similar to dekel leperos, which means it's peros ledekel, which is the fruits directly, so Rebbe Meir holds it won't work. And we don't need the reason of Rebbe Meir to say that it's not probable. So we're stuck. The answer that Tosfos gives is that really it is similar to paro, to the kefo. In other words, like the tree for the fruits, or the animal, an acquisition on the animal, for the sake of the kefel. Why doesn't it work according to everybody? Because it's not a vidaso, it's not probable. Now, both the Tosfos and the Tosfos Rush, they produced the kinyan and the havamina, and they explain them as kind of the Gemara. The problem is, if you say in the havamina that the acquisition is the cow for the sake of the kefel, and the only problem is that it's not probable, so then you have to read the Gemara a little bit dokek. The Gemara started by saying, Matkif le'roim barchama, v'ha'en adam makdash davar shelo ba'olam. That's according to the Rabbanan. And then it goes on and says, and a Rebbe Meir, who holds that it works, well, it's not going to work here because it's not a Vida D'Aso. Which comes out like there's two separate reasons for the reason why it doesn't work. The Rabbanan will hold their own reason, and Rabbi Bar Chama seems to be holding because it's not Avida Daso. But according to the way the Tosfos and the Tosfos of Russia are learning, there's only one reason. And really, Rebbe Meir is just the hemshek, the continuation of the Rabbanan, and it's the same reason, which is not probable. That's a little bit dark in the text. The Ritva wants to say that the acquisition is like a kinyan sudar. Like you pick up something, you make a deal with someone, and you say, okay, I'll pick up this cloth, and when I pick this up, that will be the acquisition. And we agree with each other. He says, from the fact that he knows the hanoah, the pleasure that he gets, knowing in the future that he'll pay him for the cow, he's happy to give him the kefil. That's pleasurable for him. So for that pleasure, by receiving, he's willing to give. And he decides, with a total decision and a full heart, that he wants to give over this kefil to the Baal. And the acquisition is like a kinyan sudar. The strength of that is that the two acquisitions in the Gemara, according to the Rabbanan and according to the Rebbe Meir, can be separate. In other words, the Rabbanan will hold that the reason it doesn't work is just simply because you cannot kone a davar shelo ba'olam. In other words, let's say you wanted to do it with a kinyan sudar. Okay, but it's a davar shelo ba'olam, where's the kefil? The Rabbanan will hold it won't work. And according to Rebbe Meir, it won't work, that even though it's a kinyan sudar, and even though normally you can't kone a davar shelo ba'olam, but here it's very improbable. So it comes that there's two separate answers between Rebbe Meir and the Rabbanan, which fits nicer with the Gemara. The downside is that where's the Meiser Kinyan here? We're really saying it's in the lave of the Baal, and that's very difficult.
you.